So you may not know this, but way back in like 2008, I had the first group training coaching program in the industry. It was like the biggest coaching program. It was called Bootcamp Blueprint. We actually held like live events called Bootcamp and did a lot of work with some of the more prominent names in the fitness industry. The list of people who are a member of Bootcamp Blueprint is literally like a Hall of Fame roster in our industry. And I mean, people jumped on this bootcamp bandwagon like crazy back then, right? There was Adventure Bootcamp was like the first bootcamp license program. There were a few other things that popped up, and it made all the sense in the world. I mean, we were seeing people go and open up and originally in like parks, not pay any rent, and make $25,000, $30,000 a month running 2 or 3 sessions a day at most. And it was almost all profit. I mean, it was amazing. And in a landscape that had historically been one-on-one training, a lot of hours, no real leverage, all done in health clubs or high-end kind of real estate, man, this was like a breath of fresh air. And it was something that we saw the trend and really leaned into it, and I think provided some really cool coaching that, frankly, some of the things that we were teaching then, I still see in action in our clients' businesses today and working like gangbusters. So, it's a program that historically I'm really proud of. But at the same time, I remember thinking, well, okay, this probably is working because of the economic downturn. And large group training was, there was kind of like a confluence of factors that made it fit, right? It made it work. There was this economic downturn that meant fewer people were probably as excited about one-on-one training. Groupon was just kind of coming into local markets and selling the vouchers or coupons to make it really accessible for people to get some sort of quote unquote coaching driven training. But in the back of my mind, I was always kind of wondering, I'm like, when's the bubble going to burst, right? Because I had come from a health club world, still owned a health club at that point. I owned a health club for almost a decade. And if you were familiar with the health club world, you knew that a lot of the group training stuff, what they'd call boot camps at the time, felt a lot like just Group X classes. Body pump or some of the things that were kind of maybe framed a little bit differently than body pump, maybe a little more extreme, maybe a little more rugged to feel boot camp-esque. But you're like, man, how is this going to work? A health club can sell you a membership for $39 a month and you get unlimited classes. Plus you get childcare, you get access to all this other stuff. You get variety in classes, spinning and kickboxing and various things. How are these people going to continue to be able to sell? Like when I started out, boot camps were typically $199 to $299 a month, and then it kind of dropped down to $149 to $199. I'm like, how's this going to continue to work? Eventually, people are going to say, look, this is a commodity. I can get this at a health club plus a bunch of other amenities for a fraction of the price. And so somewhere around 2010, we started talking about team training. And team training at that time, coming from a sports coaching background, I just gravitated to the word team. But it was essentially what people refer to now as small group training. And you hear a lot of people that are smart, that I respect in the industry, talk about large group training's dying and smart group training is the way. And they're posting and sharing things about smart group training. And I pretty much agree. I just don't think this is a new idea. I think that if you look back, I mean, you can kind of see the writing on the wall a long time ago. It's just you had to kind of figure out, well, what's going to be the nail, or what are going to be the nails in the coffin that really kind of kill group training. And the next thing that's come along that made it pretty obvious is, man, all the franchises have gone all in on group training. Almost all of them. There are only like one or two exceptions that have any market share that are not large group training. And again, why not? They can get by with putting screens on the wall or making it about the equipment and get coaches who may not be particularly skilled or experienced and just herd as many people through the door as possible. And it's like the fast food version of fitness. That's how fast food restaurants grow. They don't require the highest skilled team members. They make it about the system. And so you see this growing and growing and growing. But if you look at history, right? If you go back, when I got into the fitness industry, there was the big box health clubs. There were a lot of Bally's and Gold's gyms and World's gyms, a lot of local mom and pop health clubs that were very prominent. In fact, there was a guy who recently retired who was a consultant in the industry that was his audience, right? Like the mom and pop health clubs. And then once he saw that they were dying, he kind of pivoted and went into training gyms and kind of shifted his focus there. But he was focused in the mom and pop world there. And then we saw Anytime Fitness, Snap Fitness, and then Planet Fitness really gain a lot of traction. And they said, okay, well, health clubs are kind of a commodity. You don't have to join for 3 years like they wanted you to at Bally's. You don't have to go to a place that you're particularly uncomfortable, pay an arm and a leg, sign your life away. The Planet Fitnesses of the world were like, hey, it's month to month. And at the time, it was like $10 a month. And you're still getting access to a bunch of stuff. So they made the health club landscape for the most part. And so I'm not really talking about like Equinox or Lifetime, but the typical health club landscape became more of a commodity, right? You're just renting access to a warehouse full of stuff. And that's fine. If all you need is equipment and the convenience of 24-hour and that sort of thing, then more power to you. It's great, right? But I see this with the large group model. It's coming down the line. It's almost inevitable that somebody's going to figure out a model that is the large group iteration of Planet Fitness that spreads like wildfire like they did, right? Now, that may already exist in markets, but it's not scaled. And there are going to be people running people through the door like an Orange Theory or an F45, but they're going to be able to do it for under $50 a month, and it's going to be a commodity, and it's going to be Group X from the old health club days without childcare, without all the other amenities and all that stuff. And and we're seeing it. Like we see it all the time. It's harder and harder for independently owned group training businesses to thrive, just like it became harder and harder for independently owned health clubs to thrive back in the day. In fact, in our circles, there's really only one business that is a large group training model that I have just seen continue to knock it out of the park month after month, year after year, and that's Levi Member's gym in Texas, Intensity Training Systems. And I will tell you that A, Levi is an extraordinary operator, but then B, the other thing about Levi is that the experience the clients there have has a lot of the elements that all the people love in small group training, right? The personal attention, the connection, the community. You're not just a face in the crowd. Like you're an important part of this community in his gym. And so he's been able to take some of these things that really aren't very present in the typical large group training environment and infuse them into a large group training model. And that's how he's got 400 clients, and every month they're just incredibly successful, incredibly profitable, and their retention rate is like 98%. That's unheard of in large group training. But it's because he did all the things that are present in those more intimate models. So if you're going to build a business now, I'm going to tell you The large group training direction is certainly one I would avoid. I would be starting with considering small group training, or as I originally called it, team training. And then if you decided that wasn't a fit, I would look at things like semi-private or one-on-one. And if you're in a position where you're a large group training business, I would tell you one of two things need to happen. You need to either study what somebody like Levi Member does and infuse all the good things about small group training into your large group model, or you need to maybe pivot and look at a more intimate model that allows you to compete successfully with all these big franchised businesses, because the bubble's going to burst in some ways, at least for the independently owned large group models. For a lot of people, it has. And that doesn't mean there's not going to be that kind of unicorn business in every market or every state that figures it out. But for every one that figures it out, there are going to be 20 that don't. And you don't want to be one of those 20. You want to be the person that gets the value in return for the value you're providing. And you're going to have to work just as hard to run a low profit, high struggle large group business as you will a small group business that'll pay you better and be probably more financially rewarding for your team members. It's going to yield better profit margins. It's probably going to be more fun to run. So that's my thoughts on the large group bubble.